The devastation of what has recently rocked California with the fires in the Palisades destroying Los Angeles as it was once known has truly been something out of a horrific movie scene. But what we need to realize is that this horrific disaster zone that we've seen unfold very well could have been avoided in the totality that we saw it ended up breaking out into becoming. And why is it that this happened? Whose fault is it? Who is it that bears responsibility for this? Well, you can look no further than the leadership of California and that of its governor, Gavin Newsom, and the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, who in every single way you could possibly imagine dropped the ball and caused the destruction of Los Angeles. So now let's go ahead and throw it into the president of the United States announcing that we're going to be supporting those poor people of LA. Because much like what we saw happen in Maui with the $700 given to the people whose homes were ignited and set ablaze and destroyed, much like what we saw happen to the people in North Carolina who were only given $750, their homes and the towns in which they live in still irrevocably damaged, the federal government fumbling the bag and dropping the ball on helping them. Well, what we see is now the United States government under Joe Biden's leadership has come forward to announce what? That the people of Los Angeles will be getting a one-time lump sum payment of, you guessed it, $770. Isn't that just remarkable? No, it's fucking criminal and it's evil. So now let's go ahead and throw it into the man himself making that announcement.
And I want to be clear, we're not waiting until those fires are over to start helping the victims. We're getting them help right now, as you all know. People impacted by these fires are going to receive one-time payment of $770, one-time payment, so they can quickly purchase things like water, baby formula, and prescriptions. So far, nearly 6,000 survivors have registered to do just that, and $5.1 million has gone out.
And there we have Joe Biden talking about the money going to the poor people of California. Of course, as we know, we have hundreds of billions going to Ukraine. We have hundreds of billions that have gone to Israel, but God forbid we help the poor citizens of the United States of America. The thing that I find even more interesting than the conversation surrounding the money that the federal government will be giving the people of California, well, it's the fumbling of the bag from that of the people who lead the people of California, much like that of Karen Bass, the mayor, and Gavin Newsom, the governor, as I have already stated. Here we see from the Daily Mail, exclusive, leaked memo reveals LA Mayor Karen Bass demanded her fire department cut an extra $49 million just 1 week before wildfires broke out. So let's go ahead and add the context there. This was not cut just yet. The framing here is to understand that this could have been astronomically worse had someone like Karen Bass gotten her way. This cut is already on top of $17.6 million of cuts in her last round of budget slashing. The extra cuts requested just days before fires broke out in devastated swaths of Los Angeles would have shut down 16 fire stations and crippled the department's ability to respond to emergency, sources said. DailyMail.com interviewed current and former senior LAFD officers, briefed on the shocking proposed cuts, and exclusively obtained the memo from an LA Fire Department whistleblower who posts on social media under the moniker LAFD Watchdog. The memo is dated January 6th, only a day before the devastating Palisades fire started. According to the sources, it was sent from LAFD top brass at City Hall to division chiefs and captains after a fraught meeting the previous Friday between Chief Kristen Crowley and Mayor Bass. The LAFD is still going through a financial year 2024-2025 $48.8 million budget reduction exercise with the city attorney's office, the document said. The only way to provide a cost savings would be to close as many as 16 fire stations. This equates to at least one fire station per city council district. At what point do we simply come to the determination that this is tantamount to criminal negligence? And not only do we have this action on that of Karen Bass with the cutting of the funding for the resources for the fire department and then wanting to cut more, well, we understand that also one Gavin Newsom, the fucking governor of California, the man who's supposed to be the leader of this state, the man who led San Francisco into the ground and then is doing the exact same thing to one of the jewels of the United States itself, well, what we can realize is that he actually ended up cutting, what was it? That's right, $100 million from the fire prevention services last year. June of 2024 is when this was enacted, and then his administration started talking about cutting more of it. What I would love to talk about here specifically would be the fact that many of the things that weren't done that would need to be so you could tackle the possibility of a blaze like this coming on the horizon, well, they weren't taken, in fact. And why would that be? It's because of the environmental activists claiming that you can't alter the nature that we see within these woods, because then what you'll be doing is changing how it is that it would be preserved in its natural, unadulterated, unaltered state. Well, what we need to understand would be that the lack of scraping away of the dead wood in these forests in California, which is by all means effectively a desert and has been in a record drought as of late, was nothing more than a calamitous idea which brought calamity upon the people of California. Truly, the place where sin and debauchery is proliferating most, effectively the modern-day Sodom and Gomorrah appears to have burned exactly like that. And what do we realize? That it comes at the fault of people who would be the leadership in a place such as this. Because what we need to realize is these standards from the environmental movement that have been pushed so fervently in a place like California that Gavin Newsom has so consistently bent the knee to, well, here's the deal. What it did was actually stop a litany of fire trucks that were getting shipped in from Oregon to be able to help the people of California fight these fires because, well, you see, they just simply didn't meet the emission standards required because apparently, California has completely lost the fucking plot. Because, of course, the emissions that are injecting into the atmosphere from the literal city itself burning down to rubble, ash, and ruin, that's not something that we need to be concerned about. No. We need to be concerned about the emissions from these fucking fire trucks. You truly cannot make this shit up. And if you want to see another degree of unfathomable levels of incompetence when it comes to the fact of handling the actual issues of the actual people that live in California, look no further than where it is that they allocate so much of their funding, and that of $31 billion that could be going to tackling homelessness in California. But no, of course, that's not where we're going to divert the funds. We're going to divert it to making sure that we can fund and subsidize every single avenue and process that would be good for that of the illegal immigrants that are now flooding to our state. From PR Newswire, here we see illegal immigration costs California taxpayers nearly $31 billion a year. $31 billion that could be used to fix the homelessness crisis that is rocking this state. But no, we're not going to do that, of course, even though, as we've seen, people in California, when offered the option, when given surveys, do you wish to see your taxes increase but a little to assist in fighting the crisis of homelessness, they always vote in mass. Yes, they would be willing to support this, and every single time their taxes go up, the homelessness problem only gets worse, and what we've seen is more money consistently and continuously gets diverted to illegal immigrants who are not American citizens and not citizens of that of the state of California, which by all means are being abandoned in the pursuit of whatever is the end goal for the progressive utopia that Gavin Newsom and his ilk so desire to construct. And that utopian vision on the horizon lies in that of smart cities for Gavin Newsom and his ilk. As we see here on your screen, Smart City LA 2028, Technology for a Better Los Angeles. This has been a conversation that has been rumbling around in the back channels of the internet for quite some time. The conversation of the implementation of smart cities after the destruction of current societal order, and with that then comes the acquisition of the land and properties with which this destruction has happened, and then we see that because it is then prime real estate in the eyes of the developers that wish to create something such as this, well, it doesn't really lay out an understanding for you of why it is there would be any incentive structure for the people in power to actually fight off the devastation that very well may be coming down the line. I don't know if that's actually the case. I'm just stating in the chaotic world that we live in, I most certainly wouldn't be surprised about it in any way, shape, or form, and neither should you. If you are curious about what we see here with this Smart City document, you can go ahead and check it out. Link in the description down below. All of the resources that I use will be there. You can go ahead and find the Google Doc and go ahead, read about it, and see what's going on here. But something that I think is even more fascinating than just reading this Google document would be to listen to that of the leader of California, Gavin Newsom, stating what? oh, that he was speaking to the governor of Hawaii, asking him how it is that these operations need to take place, with many of these different massive corporations coming in and effectively doing land grabs and buying up the property after it has been destroyed, because, like I stated, it is now viewed as nothing less than prime real estate.
We're dealing with a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor of down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties, and the like. So we're already working with our legal teams to move those things forward, and we'll be presenting those in a matter of days, not just weeks.
Remarkably tone deaf from Gavin Newsom, but let's be honest, that's nothing new for him. Hell, it's nothing new for even this instance of what we see with this current calamity that's befallen Los Angeles with these recent fires that have overtaken the Palisades. It is truly remarkable to see how it is that this man acts in the most inhuman, unfeeling way possible. If there was anyone within American politics I could point to and immediately show you that that person is undoubtedly a psychopath, it is Gavin Newsom to a T. The fact is that what we see here when he's speaking with Anderson Cooper on this interview on CNN, what is it that he has to say for himself when asked about the fact of why it is there's no water within these fire hydrants? Well, he doesn't have anything to say for himself. He just goes and says, oh, well, you see, that's on the local people to figure out. Not on the leadership of California or Los Angeles and that of Gavin Newsom, the LA fire chief, or that of Karen Bass. No, it couldn't be that. It's solely on the fault of the people who live within this state that were relying on you to make sure that all of the things were in order so their homes wouldn't be burned to a crisp.
What is the situation with the water? Obviously, in Palisade, ran out last night in the hydrants. I was talking to the firefighter in this block. They left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
The local folks are trying to figure that out. I mean, just when you have a system that's not dissimilar to what we've seen in other extraordinarily large-scale fires, whether it be pipe, electricity, or whether it just be the complete overwhelm of the system. I mean, those hydrants are typical for 2 or 3 fires, maybe one fire. You have something at this scale, but again, that's going to be determined by the local.
A complete and total non-answer out of Newscum, but the thing that I think is most remarkable about all of this is the fact of how it is that he skates past this, because the only real partial answer he gives is he says, oh, well, you see these fire hydrants, they would have been good for maybe a couple, 2 or 3 fires, and it's like, yeah, one of them each, but the thing is, they were empty entirely. There was no water in them. The reservoirs were depleted, and the firefighters had to flee because there was no capacity to fend off this blaze. And who bears responsibility for that? Well, in the eyes of Gavin Newsom, I think we know who, because it's up to the local people to figure that out. What we see because of the nature of the bureaucratic bloat within the California government is nothing more than the blame game. Everyone's sitting there pointing fingers at each other rather than owning up to the fact that they fucked up monumentally. Truly fascinating to see, but what's even more fascinating to ponder is how much it will cost to rebuild LA itself, because as we know, rumors were that it was going to cost over $5 billion to rebuild Maui. Here we see from CBS, rebuilding Maui after deadly wildfires could cost more than $5 billion, officials project. Isn't that just something? So the thing that I think we can go ahead and extrapolate outward from there is go ahead and guesstimate what it would possibly be for the cost to go ahead and rebuild something like North Carolina, which the federal government hasn't done. Of course, they also haven't assisted in rebuilding Maui, as they undoubtedly should have done. That could have been something that we are jumping on in mass, but of course the federal government doesn't deem it necessary to allocate resources to something such as this because it's not funding a proxy war on the other side of the world that can cost innocent people their lives. That is one of the most despotic things about the nature of the government in the current state, is they would rather spend billions of dollars to fund wars across the globe to kill innocent people rather than spend billions of dollars to protect their own citizens and bolster their livelihoods against tragedy. Truly a remarkable thing to see, because as we see here, $5 billion or more to fund that of Maui's redevelopment after the wildfires burned Lahaina to the ground. So, what we actually need to understand is that because of the bureaucratic bloat of the federal government, we realize that the nature of government spending is truly at such an astronomical degree that you, the average individual, can't even fathom it if you're not someone that's involved with the literature of what comes out with government documents and what it is that we're spending our money on. Because when you realize that we can just, as the United States government, misallocate billions of dollars and it just doesn't seem to even register as an issue, then you realize the nature of how truly economically illiterate our leaders have become. Here we see from CNN Politics, Pentagon says Ukraine accounting error revealed last month is much bigger than previously stated. Much bigger than previously stated, you say? Interesting that. What is it that you could possibly mean? The Pentagon announced Tuesday that the accounting error revealed last month, which was significantly more than previously stated, aid provided to Ukraine was overvalued by $6.2 billion rather than the $3 billion. So the initial guesstimate was that we accidentally sent an additional $3 billion to Ukraine. But actually what it turned out to be was $6.2 billion. Oh, my apologies. Of course, that's akin to what we would need to, rebuild something like Maui, but we're not going to deviate the resources to do something such as that. No, we'll just go ahead and once those good old American dollary dues are spent into that of the military-industrial complex, we're going to go ahead and skate by our responsibility in having to make sure that we take care of the American people, because by God, don't you understand, our true responsibility as the American government is to fund the endless war machine and abandon our citizens at every single turn. And spending hundreds of billions of dollars to fund Israel, to fund Ukraine, and every single other intervention across the globe that the United States deems necessary to extend the Monroe Doctrine beyond our sphere of influence as was initially intended, well, I think it's a perfect example of the fact that if there was anything the United States government did not care about, or the politicians that walk the halls of DC or the upper bureaucratic levels of the state offices, it is that of the American people which they claim to serve. I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Thank you for watching if you got this far. Thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section down below. Stay lovely, stay great, and most importantly, my friends, please tell someone you love them. Peace out.